Hello jugglers! My name is Ernst and today we're going to go over a couple of helpful hints for how to put together a juggling routine. And this is going to be my entry for the International Jugglers Association tutorial contest. Now when you're putting together a routine, there are a lot of questions you want to ask yourself first. Like, where am I going to be performing this? What kind of audience is there going to be? Should the audience be shocked, amazed, laughing? Should they learn something? Should there be a story? Some of the most powerful routines I've ever seen have had storylines, and they can be as ridiculous as stealing shoes. Now, these questions are all very important because all your other decisions are going to be based on answers to these questions. So the next question you need to ask yourself is, what is your character? Now don't skip this step. Are you going to be funny? Maybe angry? Maybe the inquisitive spirit? Or Vegas style is very popular. The best characters I find are the exaggerated versions of yourself. Now once you've found a character, do a little research. Think about it. How does your character move? What kind of facial expressions do they go through? How do they react to drops? Now let's take a minute to talk about drops. No matter how much you practice, no matter how good you are, even if you are performing poi, at some point you will drop, and you need to prepare for that moment. There is nothing worse for an audience than to watch a performer break character and awkwardly bend over to pick up a drop prop. So think about it. How would your character go and get that prop? If you have a funny character, find some comedic way to get it back into your routine. You can do a kick-up. You can do all kinds of different things. The thing that you really want them to wonder is if you didn't just drop on purpose. Let's talk about sound for a second. Now there are two main categories most people use for their sound. They can be a comedic juggler and talk during their routine, or they can bring music in and do it to the music. Now don't let that limit you though, because there are a million things in between. You can play or sing or recite a poem. Your props could make music. The audience could make the music. There are a million things you can do. A big favorite is to do the routine to music. Now it should fit with the theme, and you should pick your music before you pick the order of your tricks so that they go along with the music. And sometimes you'll find a song that really speaks to you, and that'll be the first thing you pick. Everything else will be based around that, and that's fine. And even if you're talking during your routine, you may want to have some music in the background that promotes the feeling that you're trying to get across. Now, a little note about having a microphone. When your microphone is on you, act like it is always on, because it only takes one little bump for the entire audience to hear you go to the bathroom. What should you put in your juggling routine? There are a million answers to that question, and several of them are right. Now make sure you don't put juggling tricks that you've just learned into the routine. My gauge is if I can do it 10 times without dropping before I warm up, then it's ready to go in the routine. There's plenty of time to add it later when you've really mastered the trick. And make sure that while you're practicing it, you practice it like you're gonna perform it, with the facial expressions, with the pauses, everything. There is a big difference between somebody that stands and juggles on stage and somebody that really performs their juggling routine. When performing, you're in constant communication with the audience. When you first come out, you want to acknowledge the audience, introduce your character to them, and a very important part of the communication is to leave pauses throughout your routine and hold a pose that says, yes, this is when you clap for me. They want to clap for you. Give them an opportunity. Not leaving those pauses in is like talking with somebody that doesn't shut up long enough for you to get a single word in. Now, it's a little nerve-wracking because there's that moment when you hit the pose and the audience hasn't quite realized yet that they're supposed to clap. And you're standing there thinking, what if they don't clap? Don't cave into the fear. They will clap. Hold the pose for 3 seconds. Count slowly in your head, and then move on. You may even want a backup motion that says, yes, I will stand here and wait as long as it takes for you to clap for me. If you do not leave these pauses in for the audience to clap, they will clap randomly whenever there is any kind of pause in the routine. For example, if you drop. Make your life easier for you and for the tech crew. Don't overly complicate your routine. If it takes a long time for you to set up and you're not doing something like a flying trapeze, you need to change it. Now the ideal is that you walk on stage with your props and you walk off stage with your props. And you certainly don't have to do it that way if you've got a very good reason for the way that things are set up. But I find that in my show, the most expensive and complicated things in the routines are the very first things that I cut. And you want to think about things like, how heavy is this? Is it easy to transport? Can I explain to a monkey to set it up correctly? These are really important things to think about. Don't expect the backstage help to know how to toss in a club properly. Don't expect the stage to always be level so that your club will stand on the bulb nicely. Know what stage dimensions you need and also what lighting works best. Have backup plans in case these things aren't available. And a lot of these things will become apparent after doing the routine many times in many different places, encountering situations that no one would ever be able to predict. Now these are just a few of the helpful hints that I've found over the years, but my greatest piece of advice is this. Don't be afraid to go out there and screw up. I don't think that there's a single performer in the world that will tell you that their first idea was their most brilliant, that it went off the first time without a hitch, and that every audience loved it. There's definitely a learning curve. Over time, and after a number of performances, you'll find out what works and what doesn't. So don't be afraid to go out there, learn from your experiences, and go screw up.